So let's start. Okay, so let's start with Philip. Are you able to tell us what you do in ASTI, the initiatives that you have? I've heard that you're doing community networks. Care to tell us what that idea is?
Hello. Good afternoon to all of us. Yes, I have been engaged with projects in ASTI that involves mainly wireless communications and its applications in rural connectivity. The team, especially in Project Rain, what we do in summary is that we are trying to lower the hardware ceiling for wireless connectivity by developing hardware and software solutions that could be sustainable in rural areas because of the lower costs. No? Then what is unique about Project Rain is that not only we are developing these wireless solutions that are context appropriate, we are also incorporating locally cached content in these technologies because we want to optimize the usage of bandwidth in the areas that we are deploying it in. In these areas, for example, maybe only satellite connection is the only feasible way to connect these areas to the internet. So we are aware of the costs of it. So we are trying to explore on ways on how to optimize this bandwidth by first providing locally available and cache content for the community, and also so that we can optimize the bandwidth. Then we also are developing local services that could be of importance to the communities because the communities that we are working with have different needs, and we should cater these needs by offering locally developed services. So in a nutshell, that's what we do in DOST ASTI and in Project Rain.
Okay, so you're the lead of the team. So I guess you dictate the or you influence the direction. Why are you doing community networks? I mean, why did you get in that field? Is there a need? Was there a mentor, or you? Why are you? Uh, why this initiative?
Maybe it's to cut the long story short. No, I think it's a story of just opportunities being available to me. When I was an undergraduate in UP Triple E, I was an affiliate of the Wireless Communication Engineering Lab, and there are projects that would entail the use of wireless technologies and offer these technologies to unserved and underserved areas. And that resonated with me. The thought that I could deploy the technologies that we are developing in the lab and be of real use to the communities that we serve. And that thought continued on with the research projects that I had in UP and also with ASTI. So that's the main, I guess, drive for me. But in community networks, it still resonates with me because communication is important, and the Philippines is a nation of villages and a nation of migrants where people from those villages go out to work or to find better opportunities. And therefore, there is a need for those villagers to connect with their hometowns. And as a provinciano myself or someone from the provinces, the need for communication sticks with me. And this work, wherein I could share my expertise or my my work, so that the other villages outside the villages can connect with their loved ones in their hometowns. That's that's what drives me, I guess, currently for community networks. Yeah.
So I guess two things. One is Philip went through the hardship of migrating or moving from place to place when he was younger, and lack of communications. And when he got into the position wherein um, he had access to technology. He did a test bed, and more importantly, that test bed grew into an actual deployment. So I guess those are the two takeaways from my end. In DOST, we in my years of service in DOST, we have a lot of test beds. We get funded. The researcher or the scientist, likes the test bed, but doesn't really go to deploying the technology simply because sometimes it's too difficult. Funding, politics, red tape, and all of those things. But with the test bed in the lab and they get to write their academic papers, they get, the recognition and everything. And the deployment, that will be the problem of somebody else. So what's good with Rain is they're deploying and deploying. Have you discussed with your team, like, obviously you're doing something good and we need to multiply that? Have you, over beer or something, have you discussed how to multiply, how to scale yourself up, how to get more funding? But sometimes funding is not the answer. It's more passionate people getting involved. So do you have plans of multiplying and scaling up your initiative?
Plans, yes, but on the plan to how to get there, we have puzzle pieces that we need to put in pa. So as you have said earlier, we need more people to see what we are doing so that we can push those who are the lawmakers or those who have the funding to see the benefits of doing this and doing this by scale. No, on hindsight, we are just formalizing what the communities have been doing ever since the pandemic in areas that I call fringes of connectivity. They don't wait for the telcos to be serviced, no. So they come up with these technologies. They have these bamboo poles. They would attach those cell phones, or they would attach those pocket Wi-Fi's. If we look at YouTube, you will see videos of people actually making makeshift towers out of bamboo poles in the mountainous areas just to have the connection from the telcos. So in the similar way, we are just formalizing that what's this drive of the people to get themselves connected. So if we could formalize that, there is still work to be done in connecting the last mile, then we could push enough buttons on our lawmakers, on our funding agencies in order for these to scale. And one important thing about scaling is that we need to differentiate the community buy-in versus the free versions of giving services. No, so there is merit on giving free services. There is also merit on giving communities the agency to manage their own networks and to provide their own services and to provide their own rate so that it could be sustainable and not just be seen as a dole out or just a project or whatever. So yeah, sir.
So you mentioned one thing, political support, then partnership, to scale up your work. So I guess maybe Open Run is a good avenue for you. There was a MOA signing this morning. Some state universities pledged their support. Perhaps those state universities would want to establish a test bed team or some laboratory that can work with Project Rain, and you can spread your work, your evangelism all over the Philippines, if that's what we want to call it. Then, in terms of political support, this is a good venue. We have, cable operators, Ma'am Neng. We have the likes of Sir George has a lot of political contacts. So if you can if you see merit on the work, maybe you can help convince the higher ups. Okay, so do you see community network? Some say it's disruptive, depending on your point of view or where you're coming from. Do you see it complementing or coexisting with our existing telecommunications companies?
Yes. If I may let you imagine this scenario in, we could imagine a jar and we put big stones in it. We cannot fill in the jar with the space by getting these all big stones together. There will still be spaces in that jar. And but if we put sand or if we put smaller particles in it, maybe we could fill in the jar. So this is what I think of rain. Rain and other bottom-up alternative strategies are those sand particles that can help those big rocks. And those big rocks are those conventional solutions of our telcos. They could work hand in hand in order for the jar of connectivity to be filled in. But in a realistic sense, uh, bottom-up strategies are not meant to compete but to complement nga, the telcos because as we all know, there are geographical challenges and there would be areas that are not that economically sustainable for traditional deployments to be sustainable. And what we are doing is that if we have deployments in those grid fields, we are actually preparing those communities um, to be ready for commercial deployments in a medium or long term. No, so once we get these networks running, it could spur in development. And once we have it can reach a tipping point wherein the commercial telcos can take notice that they can take the ARPUs of that specific community, then they could graduate from a community network to a full-fledged commercial network. If I may cite an instance, we have at the end of the project wherein we collaborated with one of our friends. We shifted from one technology to another in the onset of the pandemic. That was January of 2020. We shifted community network from GSM to Wi-Fi. And using the revenues that they got, they actually renewed their OPEX, operating expenses for the internet connection. And they only closed August of last year because commercial services have been available. So they commercial services have been available because of the developments that was brought about by the community networks. They were able to actually have a system wherein someone would text the prices of the goods that they intend to sell so they could decide when to ship their goods. For example, kamote. They were days that they are unsure if they would deliver their harvest to the trading post because they are unsure of the prices. But because of the community networks, they were able to have the information of the prices and they were able to better manage how to get their goods or harvests in the trading post. So that was a significant economic development for them for that community that shifted from a community network to now they have cellular services that is commercially available.
So I guess the message to telcos is community networks are partners. They prepare the red carpet for you. They prepare the community, level up the ICT competence, have them learn to use smart devices so that when the telcos finally figure out the profit margins and come in, the telco's job would be hopefully easier. Okay, so thank you, Philip, for those insights. Ramon, you're working on, I think the technical jargon on your field is intelligent transport system. So this is actually new to me. Care to share what ITS is?
So yeah, thank you for that question. ITS, or Intelligent Transport Systems, is the application of intelligent technologies or mechanisms to transport systems for better mobility, efficiency, and interoperability. So this intelligence may come in the form of maybe artificial intelligence. It may come in forms of advanced wireless technologies. So that's ITS. So that's ITS in a short note.
Is it the same as, more or less the same as what the Americans, what Elon Musk is doing, or that is a different field?
Yes, they have efforts for doing that. Actually, one of the, if I may call it, the holy grails of ITS is autonomous driving, in which your vehicles does not need a driver to drive you around. So that's one of the applications of ITS, and ITS is not a local technology, but rather a global technology as a whole.
Okay, so you're saying Elon Musk is doing automated cars, ITS is automated cars with in network terms with routing and switching, I guess.
So that's one technology.
Okay, so I guess routing and switching would mean smart devices on the road, on intersections, and wherever it's needed. Do you think the Philippines is ready for that?
Uh, Yeah, admittedly, V2X. Actually, let me just bring up the efforts that ASTI is doing in terms of ITS. So we have this project in ASTI, which is called V2X, or Vehicle to Everything Technology Initiatives for Road Safety. So first of all, what is V2X? So V2X, from the name itself, it's a vehicle to everything. So it may come in the form of V2V, vehicle to vehicle. It may come in the form of V2P, vehicle to pedestrian, vehicle to infrastructure, V2Is, or those infrastructures may include traffic lights and other transport systems. It may also come in the form of V2N, or vehicle to networks, which includes 5G and LTE networks. So Project Viros, which is our project, aims to explore V2X technologies, particularly for road safety, but also as an addition to that, for better traffic management in the country. So admittedly, V2X is not yet adopted here in the Philippines. Maybe the closest that you will get to V2X is, I think, if you're looking at the news. So Nissan has introduced their new car that has a V2G, or vehicle to grid technology. So that's also a V2X. But of course, the main use case of V2X is in vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure. So with that said, so V2X shares the core technology for Open RAN, which is 5G and LTE, and it is used for vehicle-to-vehicle communications. But of course, other than that, the main purpose of the radio access network is for network control for V2X. So that would include resource allocation, quality of service, as well as the handover functions between cell sites. So that would be the efforts that's done in ASTI. So just to bring more detail to what we are doing. So what we're doing right now is we're characterizing V2X devices for to ensure that that characterization will bring about a plan for the Philippines to adopt the technology in the future. So that would include what parameters or what settings or configurations do we need, or which are applicable in the country. And then we're also developing an intelligent traffic controller, wherein we integrate intelligent systems to those traffic systems, such as computer vision, sensor networks, as well as V2X, which would provide a data-driven mechanism for those traffic infrastructures for better traffic flow. And so that's the activity right now in our project, Viros. So uh, can you recall, sir, what's the next question after that?
Actually, with regards to um, the cost of sensors that you use, because one promise of Open RAN is in a way democratized technology across the cellular networks, interoperability, which hopefully drives down cost. Um, Going back to the sensors that you use, are they still expensive right now, or have they lowered down to mass market prices? Because I'm trying to link how Open RAN can help the initiative.
When it comes to the V2X devices themselves, the devices with respect to the cost for consumers, it's still a bit expensive,
Okay.
especially if here in the Philippines, it's still in the research stage. But other than the V2X, when it comes to the Open RAN, Open RAN helps V2X in a way that because, of course, as other keynote speakers have mentioned, Open RAN promises flexibility in hardware options, non-vendor lock-in, the flexibility in the interfaces, the open networks. The promise of Open RAN is that with those promises, we now have the flexibility to find the specific or to offer specific hardware that will meet the specific needs of V2X in the Philippines. Because right now, V2X has no rigid or no rigid standard. Sorry, that everyone follows. There are different deployments in all parts of the world, in different countries, and with that, Open RAN can help V2X by providing a flexibility in the hardware options and the flexibility in deployment. So with that said, of course, with the hardware flexibility comes the ease of deployments. No, with ease of deployments, we can now enable the community networks which could be placed or deployed in rural areas or unserved areas. And the benefit of that for V2X is that we can extend the coverage of V2X services to those areas wherein those areas may require V2X services that require the 5G or the 5G infrastructure requirements. I remember the question a while ago. I think your question is the Philippines ready for that? So yeah, the answer is we're still in the research stage, so we're still determining the proper configuration for our country. So is it only the technical or the policy? And
Yeah,
the
actually, I guess the political and the regulatory issues with regards to smart transports or intelligent transport systems will be a mouthful in the Philippines. You know, we're trying to phase out jeepneys right now, and I think there'll be a protest next week during the SONA. So introducing smart transport to replace our old transport systems. A lot of work needs to be done on the political and on the regulatory side. Going back to Open RAN, from what I gather, Open RAN's promise of lowering telco costs hopefully will make the profit margins of telcos easier to justify for them to go to, you know, remote areas. Lower cost of operation means hopefully they can deploy to more missionary areas and build the networks there where Ramon's car can already drive, because if it's only in the urban areas, then it will be limiting. You cannot bring your smart transport all the way to outside of the urban areas. Okay, so Mahesh is not here. Mahesh is not in the room. Um, Okay, so I think more or less that's all we have with the discussion, and feel free to add. Yeah, go ahead.
just an addition because I think it would be very good to discuss also the policy and the regulations when it comes to ITS and V2X, right? So some of the challenges is in V2X is that in the Philippines there is no dedicated spectrum yet. There's already a memorandum circular wherein our regulatory commission or NTC has a dedicated or has allotted frequency for ITS. But looking at the deployments in other parts of the world, those frequencies are outside that frequency. So it's up to the policy makers, to the regulators to provide a dedicated spectrum for V2X or ITS in the future.
Okay, good that you pointed it out. Welcome, Mahesh. Good that you pointed it out because we talk about Open RAN, and to advocate Open RAN, we need the frequency. If iba yung slide. If you notice the slides, education, what's the first session? Health, education, disaster mitigation, and agriculture, I think. The one in the center is campus community networks, basically technical. If the technical side of Open RAN doesn't work because of the lack of frequency, then it cannot spill over its benefit to the other thematic areas. So usually when it's talk of frequency in the Philippines, in my own personal opinion, it's not a technical discussion; it's a political discussion. So we need to we need the help in pushing to get research frequency allocated so we can try out Open RAN in the Philippines. Okay, welcome Mahesh. Can you join us on stage? So we discussed about challenges, about issues in the field with regards to the potential of Open RAN. Then I'd like to ask Mahesh about the higher level. So before we go into that, Mahesh, can you introduce your role in Rakuten? What is it exactly that you do there or your group does there?
Okay, my apologies. I got stuck into a customer call. Sorry for that. I'm Mahesh Kasar. I'll look after the Asia Pacific sales operations, and I also have Global Partner Alliance program where we build the ecosystem partners. I also interacting with USAID team and MIC teams in Japan for some of the potential deployments and POCs.
Okay. Is the card that you're saying the open card that goes around Cubao? No. Never mind. Okay. So Mahesh is working for a big company, Rakuten. Since you have industry perspective, something that we don't have. We're from government. We work on the grassroots. We'd like to learn what is it that you guys in the industry, in the top, think of Open RAN. What is Open RAN's role on what is the role of commercial companies in advocating and pushing Open RAN to be embraced and deployed globally?
Well, from Rakuten perspective, we have not touched the legacy. So what I can talk about is only Open RAN. We grew up with Open RAN and we started being the advocate of Open RAN. I have been talking to almost 25, 30 operators, and most of the operators start asking question, okay, what is Open RAN? And that's where we start all the engagement with most of the operators. So Aura is one part, but we have become informal university of preaching the Open RAN to the society. That's the role we are playing. In terms of the Open RAN deployments, and we, as Rakuten Symphony, we have the largest Open RAN deployments across the globe. In Japan itself, we have 300,000 plus cell sites operational today. So that's the scale which we are working on. So if you are looking at from the industry standpoint perspective, all the messages which have been given about Open RAN I can stand here and say that most of them are not true. They say that Open RAN is built for rural areas. I welcome all of you to Tokyo to observe. It's an Open RAN network there. It says it's not scalable. We have covered 98% of the population in Japan last year. So please do visit us and observe it. We have been rated in top 5 by Umlaut and other analysts in terms of our uplink and downlink speed. So that's where you can talk about performance and KPIs. So from the industry standpoint perspective, from Rakuten, I can say that it's the network everybody should follow going ahead.
So from what I gather, it must be weird. I don't know if weird is the right term for this. Like what we have in the Philippines, we're in the vendor lock-in and we're trying to migrate out of it if that is the direction that we want. You guys in Japan, you were, as you said, you were born into it. You didn't have the vendor lock-in when you started your network. Everything was interoperable and vendor neutral, I guess. So two perspectives that are interesting to look at. Actually, with in terms of scalability, I agree with you. Actually, we have a good example of scalability globally in terms of multi-vendor. You know, TCP/IP that runs our internet. There's not a single vendor of a router or a switch, but they agreed on a certain standard and they are interoperable. So I think with regards to the interoperability and scalability of Open RAN, you just need to fix the bugs and that misnomer will go away if ever there is one.
Maybe I have a detailed session tomorrow. I'll present one slide which will talk about the heterogeneous network which we have built. We have Nokia in the antenna side. We have Nokia. We have KMW. We have NEC. We have Komba. We have. I mean, these are the different airspan we have. So these are different radios we have. Hardware, different hardwares we have. We have built our own DU servers based out of the shelf Intel components. So these are the ecosystems which we have built, and we don't see that there should be any dependency on any vendor for going ahead. So we have that flexibility to pick and choose the kind of vendor we want.
Which is also the luxury that we have right now with our internet. I mean, TCP/IP based devices, right? So, wearing your hat as an Ayora board member, what do you see as the future of our group? I mean, what do we need to focus on? What do we need to work on? What do you see as our path moving forward?
Well, if we look at the engineering institutes, the industry look at the engineering institutes as the source of human resource where they can pick up. So if I have to phrase one-liner for Aura, I would say that Aura should become the main sourcing body for human resources for anybody who is going to deploy radio network across.
I think the Philippines has a golden opportunity there. If you check our OFW statistics, we run a lot of infrastructure globally. Our Filipino engineers and talent, go out and deploy these things. So
I had 4 in my team.
oh, for
when
Filipinos,
I was doing platform.
Okay, so obviously we have the talent, and there's this initiative to start up competence. We should I think fully embrace it. Okay, so thank you for your time. We got perspective from down there and up here, and hopefully the session was insightful.